Michael Shank is the Government Relations Advisor at George Mason University's Institute for Conflict Analysis and Resolution, and he joins us now from Washington with more on this. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Shank.
Thanks for having me.
Want to ask you, is this good for the West, the fact that Musharraf is gone? Because even though many say Musharraf subverted democracy in many ways, we know he took power in a coup, imprisoned journalists, political opponents, lawyers, judges, and many say he ran a dictatorship, yet he was a very close ally with the United States against the war on terror, right?
Well, indeed he was, and that is why the people of Pakistan and the opposition parties were very much against him and voted to impeach him. All four provincial assemblies, Balochistan, Sindh, Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, voting to impeach him. 80% of the public wanting him out for that very reason, that he was allying with the U.S. in the war on terror and essentially killing his own people. And much of the military financing that the U.S. sent to Islamabad, $11 billion since 2001, very little of that trickled down to the people. So this is good for Pakistan, and this is what democracy looks like. Is it good for the U.S.? Not necessarily. However, if the U.S. does change tack and support the opposition parties, we will see allies in Islamabad. It just means a very different foreign policy vis-a-vis Pakistan.
Okay, so you're talking about changing tact. You say that the U.S. has to be very careful and patient how it proceeds here, especially with whoever replaces Musharraf. Why do you say that? Does that mean mistakes were made? We were too impatient with Pakistan in the past?
Well, Musharraf's policy in the tribal regions, in the border regions between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and essentially U.S. policy for the border regions was to use hard power, to bomb if the intelligence was there, and the new candidates, McCain and Obama, have pledged to do similarly. Now, the opposition parties are suggesting a different approach to the border regions. The border regions desperately need economic development. Educational enrollment is very, very low in those regions. So what the opposition parties are saying, we need to talk with the tribal leaders, we need to provide economic development, educational incentives as a way of bringing them back into the fold. Now, extremists and fundamentalist parties have never polled well. They've only ever polled 10% of the vote. And the main political party in the Northwest Frontier Province, the Awami National Party, pledges nonviolence. They're very, very popular in the tribal region. So if the U.S. supports those kind of moderate democratic waves throughout the region, then we will see both our foreign policy objectives met and a more healthy democracy in Pakistan.
What about the Army? Will they go along with this? I mean, we know, certainly in the past, they've been extremely loyal to Musharraf.
They have. Now, the military is neutral here, and not surprisingly, given that the 80% of the population wanted Musharraf out, so they're laying low. They will likely support the opposition parties, the Pakistan People's Party and the Pakistan Muslim League of Nawaz Sharif, as they essentially take over the government, including the president. So I see military support on this. The military won't back up Musharraf in the coming weeks.
Okay, so you see Nawaz Sharif stepping in, the former prime minister deposed by Musharraf in that coup when he seized power, stepping forward to lead?
Well, as far as new presidents are concerned, filling Musharraf's seat, some names have been thrown out, including Asfandiar Wali Khan, who leads the Awami National Party in the Northwest Frontier Province. This would be very good both for Islamabad and for the tribal region, because he would know how to negotiate with tribal chieftains. He's also talking about nonviolent leadership. Where Zardari, who runs the Pakistan People's Party, and where Sharif, who runs the Pakistan Muslim League, where they would play as far as a presidential role, they bring too much baggage, they bring too much corruption. And so what I think Pakistan is looking for is a new face, a new fresh face, one that doesn't carry kind of the corruption and the baggage that Zardari and Sharif are bringing to the table.
All right, Michael Shank with George Mason University. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.